We've met giants before, but what about one-eyed giants? Time for a Spec Evo look at Cyclopes. Hey everyone! Cyclopes are one of those iconic mythology monsters that need no introduction. But what would it be like if they were real living beings inhabiting our world? Speculative biology may give us a look into that, so keep your eye on those like, hype and subscribe buttons to help our channel grow. Or look at some of our other mythology videos. And now, without further ado, let's take a look. As much as we'd like to conserve the amazing organisms we share the world with, sometimes they were gone long before we had any awareness of their importance to their environment, nor any way to help them resist extinction, leaving them a relic, a reminder of ancient times of which we can only dream of. This is the Cyclops. Fossil remains of cetocephalomonops and some close relatives have been found across the coast of the Mediterranean, particularly in the Peloponnese region, in the south of Greece, although they have also been found in Sicily and some nearby islands. Our studies have allowed us to determine it is a large species of predatory theropsid, which grew in size as it adapted to a semi-aquatic lifestyle, reaching around 5 meters in length. Fat tissue accumulation on their head allowed for the development of a melon, a structure also seen in cetaceans, which is used to modulate their vocalizations, allowing them to echolocate. Placed atop this melon is the parietal eye, a photoreceptive structure found in many animals, not quite allowing the animal to see, but giving it enough awareness of its environment to work in tandem with the melon. The development of this melon, as well as their complete lack of predators and terrestrial prey, led to a tendency towards the reduction of the eyes. Eventually, this became vestigial, with most of their sensing of the environment being done through the melon and parietal eye. Cyclopes are hypercarnivores, and while their huge size and strength would allow them to prey on most animals in their environment, their limited senses severely reduce the range of their diet. While injured or cornered animals are easy for them to hunt, most of their food will consist of huge bivalves, relatives of the giant clam that grew increasingly larger and more armored to better resist the attacks of the Cyclopes. The most recent populations of these clams were far too hard to be broken open by the jaws of the Cyclopes, but that is scarcely enough to deter them. Cyclopes would break them open by using their enormous arms covered in bony scutes, smashing these enormous bivalves against the rocks with the same ferocity of a blacksmith striking the anvil. In a fascinating example of behavioral adaptation, which puts into question the now obsolete perception of these animals as mere brutes, it is now known that the huge lagoons in which many of the fossils of these clams were found were not natural, but created by the Cyclopes themselves, as they would gather huge boulders and place them along the coast, creating tide breaks where their prey could grow and where they could easily feed on them. During mating season, male Cyclopes will hoot and howl, broadcasting their vocal range and their size, as indicated by the volume and tone of their calls, a behavior that will attract the much larger females to their dens. Unsuccessful males have been known to harass females for weeks on end, but this rarely ends well for them. Approximately 1 year later, each female will give birth to 1 or 2 young, covered in soft bristles that help them thermoregulate, making them look woolly and soft before these are shed as they mature. These young will be cared for communally by the females, not a long-term pack, but simply a small group formed out of convenience, taking turns to look after the young while the others feed and rest. While Cyclopes are certainly aggressive and fearful predators on a good day, they are especially valiant when caring for their young, going out of their way to chase and kill any intruders in their territory, thus ensuring no danger comes to their young. As amazing as these creatures are, they remain only as a memory of lost times, as no living populations have been recorded in over 3,000 years. From what we've been able to determine, the species was already in decline long before that time owing to the increase in global temperatures. Still, stable populations were present for many millennia, until a sudden drought and receding coastlines greatly reduced the clan populations the Cyclopes fed on, causing most of them to die off. In the mainland, what few populations remained were killed off by humans moving into the area, equipped with ranged weapons, such as bows, before which the great strength of the Cyclopes was useless. The last sighting of one of these amazing creatures was recorded as part of King Odysseus' return from the Trojan War. Afterwards, these creatures became little more than a myth associated with the ancient past of Greece, a fate many creatures have suffered. Nowadays, all that's left of them are huge bones and the remains of their constructions, massive walls of boulders exposed to the unyielding rays of the sun by the receding waters. And that's it for a speculative biology look into Cyclopes. Feels real good to come back to classical mythology for a bit, doesn't it? Now, Cyclopes usually take on a few different forms in said myths, alternately being blacksmiths for the gods, building giant walls, and being man-eating shepherds. And we decided to mix all of these together into a single organism, since the idea of a huge one-eyed humanoid is iconic enough to justify it, and it filled their profile well enough in a way I feel taking them separately wouldn't have. So, previous to working on these guys, I had gone over a couple ideas, like crabs and marine mammals, until discussion of the subject on our Patreon Discord led to the idea of a basal mammal. I, of course, didn't want to make it fully humanoid, but just something that could look humanoid in the right conditions, and the head, jaws, and limb arrangement allowed us to give the impression of a beastly creature only accidentally looking humanoid. And to get that going to eat you look just right, I also took some inspiration from the Hinox from Breath of the Wild, its own brand of Cyclops completely separate from this one, but their general mood and feel I felt worked really well with this one. So I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. Huge thanks to everyone who wanted to see it, which, like with most mythology episodes, was quite a bit of people. I'm glad to finally be bringing it to the channel. And also thank you to our researchers and research associates who support us through Patreon and YouTube memberships, especially to our new member, Oof. And if you'd like to get to see all of our creatures and episodes ahead of time and help in the creative process, please consider joining in as well. Or you can also like, subscribe, or write a comment telling me any type of creature you would like me to give the Spec Evo treatment in the show. Any of those really help the channel a lot. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time on the Speculative Wildlife Research Center.